We are up and running. Happy Monday, everybody. This is LisaBug Yoga for the hands today, Hasta Bandha. So we're going to start in just a seated position today. And what I have with me for props are a bath towel, and I have it almost the length or the width of my mat, wide, about the distance between my shoulders apart or a little wider. And I have it kind of rolled up, so it's about maybe 3 inches thick, 4 inches thick. I have that on my mat. And I also have a chair today. So these are just options as we move through our practice to just experiment with some things that might be helpful in our yoga practice with our wrists. So let's just come in, comfortable position, even maybe seated on your chair if you'd like to today. And we'll close our eyes. And just begin to center and ground. This is time you've allotted for yourself, so no worries, nowhere to go, no place to be, just here and now. With our focus, our concentration on our hands. And just gently press the palms of your hands together at heart center in an Anjali Mudra. And I'd like to open with a little quote today from Audrey Hepburn. What a character she was, right? But I came across a quote from her that was so touching. And she said, as we grow older, we realize why we have two hands. One hand to help ourselves and one to help others. Let's take a couple more breaths. Breathe in and out through the nose with a long spine and an open throat. And then we'll open our eyes and focus your awareness on your hands here pressed at heart center. So we are going to talk about the Hasta Bandha. And in Sanskrit, the word hasta means hands, and bandha means lock. So our Hasta Bandha is that connection of our hands into the mat. And as you know, in yoga, especially maybe a vinyasa class, we have our hands down on the floor a lot and with a lot of body weight. And our wrists begin to get achy and they take in a lot of tension and stress, and sometimes can be the weakest link in the chain when we're doing a pose. So let's just begin to warm up the wrists. So as you press the palms, send your fingers one direction, and then send your fingers the other. And you're pushing with one hand to create some tension, and then you're receiving that tension into the other wrist. Just rocking back and forth, just like a little teeter-totter. And just notice what you feel in your wrist today. Just exploring that range of motion that you have. And as we age, we lose a lot of the ability to be able to flex our wrists to 90 degrees. Maybe we could easily do it as a child. Let's take one more. And then come back to center, release the hands. Make an open wide fingers and then close your fists. So we'll inhale, spread them wide and close them. And I want you to imagine as you spread your fingers wide that you have webbed hands so that there's energy in between each one of your fingers. and energy between that index finger and your thumb. So you're almost creating, when we go down to the mat on the floor, you're creating a paddle with your hands rather than just individual fingers and your thumb. Now, as you close your fingertips into this position, close your thumb in the inside and wrap your fingers over. So our thumbs are tucked in. We're going to rotate your knuckles to one side and then into the other. So I'm bringing my knuckles towards the pinky side of my wrist and then towards the thumb side of my wrist. You might not have very much range of motion in doing this, but this is going to start to stretch and warm up the tendons in the thumb. If you have any arthritis in your thumbs, just pay special attention to that and just make that movement comfortable. And then keeping the thumb tucked in, rotate and go around. It's amazing how much different this feels if we have our thumb tucked in versus our thumbs on the outside of our fingertips. Now, what are you feeling? I'm feeling more sensation in my right hand for some reason today, and I'm feeling it across the top of my hand where it intersects with the wrist itself. Let's reverse this, go the other way. See if that changes what you're feeling, the sensations in your hands. You might feel some work down the muscles of your forearms because they flex and extend the wrist for us. One more circle this way. Open your hands back out. Imagine you're playing a piano. Just flutter your fingers and flutter your thumbs. We'll just tinker the keys a little bit. And then hold those hands out. Just circle your thumbs only. Around and around. Are you feeling any clicking? Any painful sensations? Do you need to reduce the range of motion? Circle the other way. And then bring your palms back to heart center where we began. If you want, you can close your eyes for just a second and notice what you're feeling in your hands, in your fingers, in your wrists. Definitely feeling a little sensation of heat, maybe even a little tenderness as I've moved through a range of motion I haven't done yet today. So let's talk about the Hasta Bandha. So if you look down at one of your hands, so I'm looking at my left hand. When we place our hand on the floor, we don't want to put all the pressure right across the wrist. And oftentimes what happens when we put our hands down on the floor is, especially if we're tender in our wrists, we start to put more pressure along the outside of the hand. So as you look at your hand down in front of you, your thumb and your index finger, as we put our hand on the mat, are going to take a little bit more of the pressure than the outside of your wrist and the pinky finger. They're both going to be pressed into the mat, but I want you to focus more of your awareness on your thumb and the ball mound of your index finger. Then we're going to feel pressure across the hand where the fingers meet the palm. We'll press down evenly into that portion. And then right in the middle of your hand, that little center area, that's going to sort of be like a suction cup. So we're not going to press that part down into the floor. It's going to be slightly lifted. So if you joined me for last week's class and we did the Hasta Bandha, we talked about the arch of the foot being lifted away from the mat or from the floor. Same thing with your hand. This is almost like the arch of the hand. It's going to be slightly lifted away from the floor. So if you press your palms together, let your whole hands push. And then point your fingers down towards the floor and look down at your wrists. And notice there's no space between what I'll call the heel of the hand. We're going to change that. So bring your fingertips back up. And I want you to slightly claw with your fingers. So I'm digging them in towards each other and pushing in the pads of my fingertips. If you notice when you do that, the center of your hand, right in the palm, lifted away. Then press the thumbs together, the ball mound of the thumb, and then the ball mound of each one of these fingers, press that together, and then turn and look at your wrists again. And it should have created a little crevice right down the center of the heel of your hand. This is really the carpal tunnel area. So we don't want to put a lot of pressure into that part of the hand when we are on our hands and knees. So we grip, press the pads of the fingers, we press the base of the knuckles, we lift the center of the hand like a suction cup, and notice that your arms are tensing here through your forearms a little bit, and they're taking on some energy. So let's come right to our hands and knees, and we'll try this technique in all fours. So if we come on to both hands and knees, spread your fingers really wide, like you're making a webbed hand, but take your thumbs and slightly bring them towards your index finger, because your thumbs are not going to be spread really wide. They're slightly drawn in. We're going to press down into the base of the thumb, down into the floor, and then claw the floor with your fingertips, and then push the base of all of your knuckles, that top portion of the palm, down into the mat. See if this picked up a little suction cup, and if the center of your hand picked up off the floor a little bit. Now this is a lot of work. So slightly reduce some of that clawing of the fingertips, just so you're gently pressing the pads down, lifting up the arch of your hands. So if you're maintaining this connection on a scale of 1 to 10, this is really only about a 4. So I don't want you to be gripping so hard with your fingers that you're at a level 10, just about a level 4. And then we'll maintain this connection as we move through cow and cat. So start to inhale, drop the belly down, lift the tailbone. And with that Hasta Bandha, you're pulling the hands towards your knees. Then as you round up into cat stretch, pull the belly in and press your hands away from your knees. And this is just that Hasta Bandha lock of the connection of your hands into the mat. Now you might be saying, but Lisa, this is really working my forearms. Yes, and that's the idea, is we want to put some of that energy that we typically drive straight down into our wrists. We want to put it into the muscles of our forearms. Let's do one more. Inhale, gaze forward, pull and drag your hands, energy towards your knees. Exhale, round the back up, tuck the chin, tailbone, push the energy away from you. And then relax back down to neutral. Now I have my towel right ahead of me on the mat. I'm going to place my hands on that towel and then drop into child's pose to give your wrists a break. Now the first time you use this technique with your wrists, you might have a little bit of tenderness in your wrists for a couple of days or in your forearms. But if you do this on a regular basis, every week or a couple times a week, really going to feel the strength and the flexibility advance forward into the wrists. Now, a couple of different things that we can use when we're on our hands and knees and our wrists are really tender, and this Hasta Bandha and hand lock isn't really helping for us. We can use a towel. So I want you to bring that right underneath the palms of the hands. So a lot of times the reason why our wrists are tender is we can't flex them to 90 degrees. So if we put them on a lifted object like this towel, we can let the heels of our hands be up higher than the fingertips. So you're just going to roll your fingers over your towel there. And so there's not as much pressure into your wrists. And then we'll alternate one leg, send it back behind you, and bring it in, and other side. Now, if you do this on a towel, you're really going to notice that you're shifting from one hand into the other, and that's okay. You can have more energy in one hand as you take weight out of one knee. Our goal, though, is to keep our shoulders level and the pelvis level. And you'll notice with the hands on the towel, you can slightly rock your wrists forward and back. So you can take some pressure out of your wrists by rocking the knuckles forward just a bit. Let's do one more of these on each side. And these are just techniques that you can use through your yoga practice. If you don't have any wrist issues and it feels better for you to come right down to the mat, that's okay for you as well. All right, let's bring that towel over to the side. Next technique we can use for tender wrist is we can make fists for wrists. So we make a fist, not with the thumb closed in, just on the outside, and place our knuckles right down to the floor. So this is going to create a straight line here and not flex the wrist really at all. So again, we'll take one leg back and lift the opposite arm forward. So we're in spinal balance. And then as you come back in, place your knuckles of that hand down. Take the other leg back and switch. So again, this is just a technique that you can use while you're practicing yoga to take a little bit of pressure off of the wrists. Let's do one more on each side. And rest back into child's pose. So with your arms extending out in front of you in child's pose, I want you to come into your Hasta Bandha connection. So press into all of the pads of the fingers. They're spread nice and wide. Slightly tuck your thumb in and push down into the thumb side of your hand. And then along all of the knuckles where they meet the floor to the fingertips. And try to lift the arch of your hand up off the mat, making a suction cup. About a level 4 on a scale of 1 to 10. And let's try to maintain that as we come into downward facing dog. So we'll shift forward. We still have that beautiful Hasta Bandha. Tuck the toes, lift the hips, and press away from the hands. And just breathe here and notice if you can just tweak that Hasta Bandha a little bit. Knowing that our tendency is to roll to the pinky finger side of your hand. Try not to do that. Press into the heel of the hand on the thumb side and index finger side. Let's just hold here 3 more breaths. You should feel a lot of work through your forearms. 2 more breaths. 1 more breath in. Exhale it out. Then begin to walk your feet up towards your hands until you come into forward bend. Grab your opposite elbows to hang in ragdoll pose and relax your wrists. Now I have my chair at the top of my mat. So if you're using a chair today, make sure that it is on a secure surface so that it's not going to slide on the floor. And we'll do our forward bend with hands on the chair. So I'm just going to come forward with my hands a little bit and come into my forward bend. Now the benefit of this is if you're tight in your hamstrings, you're reaching out and kind of bringing the floor up to you, and it's a great stretch for your shoulders. I still have my Hasta Bandha position in hands on my chair. 2 more breaths here. One more breath. Then walk your feet in a little bit closer. I'm going to be about maybe 10 inches away from the chair and rise up to mountain pose. So just for today, I'm going to show you how to use your chair to flow through the sun salutation and some variations. It's oftentimes chaturangas, hard on the wrists, and moving through the half series vinyasa. So we're going to use our chair. We'll take a nice breath in, so circle sweep the arms out and up. And then as you swan dive into forward bend, you'll just place your hands right on top of the chair. Maybe your elbows are bent. If you're fairly flexible, the top of your head can come down onto the chair just lightly. Then we'll inhale to half lift, and what it looks like on the chair is right here, about 90-degree bend from the hips to lengthen through the spine. And then as you fold back down, make sure you have a nice secure position with your hands on the chair and step one foot back and the other foot back and come into plank. This is where it's really important that your chair is not going to get away from you. Now begin to slowly lift your hips back. You're coming into down dog. Now you might have to adjust the position of your feet just to make sure that you're in a comfortable position for your upper body. I love down dog with my hands on a chair because I can take virtually all of the pressure out of my wrists, and I can get a great stretch through the shoulders, and I can get my heels down. So this just feels so wonderful to do my down dog here. Now very carefully lift one leg up off the floor. Let's go with our right. So this is our 3-legged dog. There's no pressure on the wrists, but we're pushing down into the Hasta Bandha on the chair. And then take that right leg and step forward towards your chair and come into Warrior One. Oh, how easy was that to step your foot forward? Much easier than when we're down onto the mat. Then let's reach hands behind the back. Just come into a gentle chest expansion. You can either interlace your hands or grab one wrist or place hands to hips, squaring off hips and shoulders. And you can think about the Hasta Bandha from last week, grounding into all 4 corners of the feet. And then we'll inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, let your hands find the top of the chair and very carefully step back to your plank. Now we'll come into a modified up dog. So just allow your hips to slightly drop and your heart to ascend through. Your abdominals are engaged. This is your back bend. Pull the abdominals in as you send your hips back into downward facing dog with hands on the chair. Taking a look at your feet, they're parallel. Hips are nice and level. And use your Hasta Bandha hand lock into the chair. So you're gripping with the fingertips, making that little suction cup underneath your hands. And we'll lift our left leg straight back into that three-legged dog. Breathe, level off your pelvis. Try to feel an equal connection into both hands on top of the chair. And then we'll step that left foot up towards the chair, turning that back foot about 45 degrees, rise up into Warrior One. Square off hips and shoulders, and then expand through the chest, hands at hips, or lacing your fingertips behind your back. Beautiful posture through the core, through the spine. And inhale, sweep those arms up. Exhale, place hands onto the chair. Take the back foot forward, back into your forward bend. You can lower down, bending your elbows, any amount. Halfway lift. And fold. Soften your knees, sweep the arms out and up, stretch through the fingertips. And press the palms. Now moving a little quicker, we'll do one more sun salutation with our hands on the chair. Inhale, sweep up. Exhale, forward bend. Halfway lift, long spine. Fold, step back to plank. Make sure that you're nice and secure on your chair. Now we can add a little baby chaturanga by bending the elbows a little bit. And then let the heart shine forward into our up dog. Pull the abs in, lift the hips, down dog. Great stretch through the shoulders. Lift the right leg. We're in our Hasta Bandha, hands on the chair, step forward, Warrior One. This time we'll do a nice goalpost arms. Spread your fingers wide, but slightly pull your thumbs in. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, hands come to the chair. Step back to plank. Bend your elbows slightly, chaturanga. Let your heart shine forward and upward, up dog. Push back, down dog, dropping your heels, stretching through your shoulders. Lift the left leg, stretch it up. Step it forward, back foot plants, 45 degrees. Warrior One. Goalpost arms. And inhale, reach up. Exhale. Back to plank one more time. Bend those elbows slightly. They're hugging in close to the waist. Extend through the heart. And press back to your downward facing dog. Now using our chair here is a great way to work Warrior Three. So we'll lift the right leg up, level off the hips, then step it about halfway up towards your chair and lift off the back leg. And you just have your fingertips right here gently on the chair. Once you have your balance in your Warrior Three, you can let go. The arms can reach forward. You can press them at the heart and reach them back behind you into airplane. Or you can just leave your fingertips right on the chair for a little bit of balance. One more breath here. Step your left foot back and press back to your plank. Bend the knees, elbows, chaturanga. Extend through the heart center, our upward dog. Press back to down dog. Lift your left leg up. Step it about halfway up to your chair and lift the right leg up, finding your warrior three. And just use that chair for any amount of balance that you need to today. So one hand can come off, both, or just two little fingers holding on for balance. Noticing our Hasta Bandha foot lock. One more breath. And step your right foot back to the floor. Come into your plank. Shoulders go over wrists. Bend your elbows a bit, chaturanga. Extend through the heart for your modified up dog. And push back to down dog one more time, stretching through your shoulders. That Hasta Bandha connection on top of the chair. Grip with the pads of your fingers. Make that little suction cup underneath the bottom of the palm of your hand. Then walk your feet up towards your chair. Come into forward bend. Halfway lift, nice long spine. And fold back down. Reverse swan dive all the way up to our extended mountain pose. Press the palms, thumbs to heart center. All right, so if you want to keep the chair, we're going to go through another round of sun salutations, or if you'd rather use the mat and try your Hasta Bandha, hands onto the mat, you can move your chair just up away from the top of your mat. We'll begin here. Feet either tight together or hips distance apart. We'll let the arms rise just about shoulder level and sit into chair pose. Then as the arms drop, straighten the legs, let your arms sweep back behind the body. Two more times, sit into chair, arms sweep forward. Thumbs are up. Exhale as the arms sweep back, open the heart. And one more time, sit. And pull back, squeeze through the shoulder blades. Let the arms rise, stretch, and swan dive into forward bend. Inhale halfway, fingertips float up the shins. Exhale, fold, and as you bend your knees and set your hands on the floor and step back to plank, look at your hands. We can always come to our knees here. Pads of the fingertips pressing into the mat. Thumb side is drawn in, pressing down firmly into that index finger knuckles. Two more breaths. And from the knees or toes, lower all the way down to the belly. Now if you're on the chair, you're just lowering any amount. And then press up into either that baby cobra on the floor or upward facing dog or your modified up dog on the chair. Press the hips up and back into your down dog. Really connect with the bottoms of the hands in that Hasta Bandha. Feel the work that you're drawing up from the earth into those forearms. Lifting the right leg, three-legged dog. Notice how that shifts some of your energy into the opposite hand. Step that foot through, setting up for your warrior one. Back foot plants. And we rise and square off hips and shoulders. Reach the hands behind you. And can you come into reverse prayer position? So I have the palms of the hands pressed in. Pinky fingers are in alignment with my spine. If that's not accessible to you today, you can just take hold of the wrists, or clasp the hands or place hands to hips. And we'll straighten the right leg forward, that front leg, and then shift into pyramid just by hinging from the hips any amount forward until you feel a little stretch down the back of your right leg. Now, if you're using your chair, you get to put your fingertips on top of the chair and guide yourself down into this beautiful stretch for the hamstring. If you have your reverse Anjali Mudra behind you, see if you can press that into your Hasta Bandha connection. One more breath. As you exhale, soften the front knee, put a little bend in it, and rise up. Release the hands from the back body. Inhale, stretch them up. Exhale, reach to the mat. Really find that Hasta Bandha connection or the top of your chair and push back to plank. Hold. Pressing into the thumb and the index finger. Creating a little suction cup under the bottom of the hand. From the knees or the toes. Lower down. You're halfway if you're on the chair or all the way down on the mat. Extending into cobra or up dog. And pressing back firmly into downward facing dog. Hasta Bandha connection. Open up through the shoulders. Notice how there is that tendency to roll out to the outside of your hand. So really counter that by firing up the muscles that press the thumb and the index finger into the floor. Inhale, lift your left leg. And step it through. Warrior one. Rise up. Closed hip pose, so both hips are squared forward. Bring your hands behind your back or come into that reverse prayer. And if you have reverse prayer, press the pads of the fingers towards one another. Try to get the base of the knuckles to connect. And depending on your flexibility, you may or may not be able to press the heel of the hand. Straighten out that front leg and shift into your pyramid. Foot lock, all four corners of both feet, and arches are lifted in our Hasta Bandha. Neutral spine, so we're not rounding the back or dropping the head. One more breath. Elongating through the back of that front leg. And soften or bend that front leg, rising back up to our warrior one position. Releasing the hands from the back body. Stretch up, inhale. And exhale, hands find the floor or the chair. Making our Hasta Bandha connection. Pressing back to one more plank. From the knees or the toes. Lower down any amount. Lengthening the spine. Cobra or up dog. This time we'll press into a child's pose. Dropping the forehead down to the mat. Hasta Bandha connection. Slightly gripping with the fingertip pads. Breathe. And then bring yourself up. Transition to a Z-sit position with your right leg in front, your left leg off to the side. So another thing we can do to work on strengthening our hands is what I call tented fingers. So if I put my fingers down onto the floor like a little tent, I'm not actually flexing my wrist and I'm creating a big suction cup underneath the bottom of the hand. So place that little tented fingertips next to the side of your body on the right side. And then we'll stretch up and over. You're just bending your elbow on the right side and then push away with your fingertips. Bend your elbow and push away. So there's not a lot of flexion going on into the wrist, but I'm really building up strength in my fingers, which I've really noticed for me over the years has been decreasing it, making it more and more difficult to open a jar, things like that I typically did with my hands. That strength is starting to wane. So this gives you that nice strengthening here. Let's take one more. And then bring this top arm over and then set it all the way down parallel with the other hand. And you're going to walk your right hand back out behind you a little bit and use this tented fingertip position, pressing all of your fingers and your thumb down into the floor and rotate into a beautiful twist. And lift the heart forward, shoulders are down. Try not to shrug or hunch. Feel this nice twist. Breathe. And then walk the right hand back into the center. Lift the left hand up and open it back out. And you should really be feeling this work in the fingers, right? So let's do it on the other side to counter that. Swing the legs around. Left leg is in front, right leg to the side. Make the tent and set it down onto your mat. Strong fingers. And then as you stretch over, let this elbow bend and push away. So the left arm, your tricep is working as you're taking this arm bend. The fingers are working, strengthening through the hands. Taking this into a lateral flexion of the spine for side bending. And a little bit of a hip opener too, just sitting in this Z-sit position. And one more time. And bring this all the way over until your hand finds the floor and walk your back hand out a little bit. All 10 fingers, 8 fingers and 2 thumbs are connected into your mat. And we're rotating, trying to square your shoulders off to that side edge of your mat. Breathe and lengthen. You should notice that the right side of your waist is shortened. The left side of your waist is lengthened. We'll take a couple more breaths here. Inhale and exhale. Then walk that back hand into the center. You're still tented on your fingertips. Open back out to the front and release. Okay, let's talk about side plank. Side plank can be really hard on the wrists. So sometimes we come down to our elbows, our forearm, which is fine. But let's use this tented fingertips to do a side plank today. So switching your legs around to the other side again. So I want to place pressure onto your right hand. We will come up onto this right wrist and extend the right or left leg out to straight. Now I can put a lot of pressure in my hand here, or I can choose to use my core to lift up a little bit and just put my fingertips into the mat. So it's important to have this right leg underneath your hip, your right knee. I just want you to use your core strength and lift up and hover your fingers off the floor. And you might say, well, this isn't really a side plank, so I'm not holding myself up. Well, holding yourself up is only one part of side plank. Really, what we're doing is we're keeping this neutral core connection when we're doing a one-arm side plank. It's more about what the core is doing than just holding ourselves up with our arm. So we'll move this into gate pose. So using the strength of your waist, pull yourself up and stretch this direction. And then as you come back down to the mat, your side plank is just either a touch of your fingertips or a tented fingers if you want to work more strength. And then pull yourself back up. And again, reach, hover, or tent the fingers. And up. And let's do one more, touching the fingertips down. Maybe let this top arm this time come all the way to the ear. Stretch, stretch. And pull yourself up. Counter that stretch the opposite direction. And then just lower your right arm down. Bring your fingertips tented right in front of you onto the floor. Or you can bring your elbows down if you have a little bit more flexibility through your inner thigh and your hamstring. And you can slide your left leg further and further away from you. We'll just hold here 3 breaths. Last breath. And press yourself up. Draw that knee in. Extend the other leg outside. Tenting our fingertips onto the mat, we find this nice straight line from the fingertips, the wrist, the elbow, the left shoulder, right shoulder, elbow, and fingertips. Now you can decide how much you want to use your fingers here. Do you want to not use them at all? Then we float up. So I take them completely off the floor. I'm using my entire core to support this. And then we'll move through gate, rising up. Gaze can look up, or you can keep it neutral or look down. And back into our modified side plank. And pull it up. And reach down. Maybe you're just hovering. Bring it up. And last one, taking it down. This time, let's let the top arm keep drifting closer and closer to the ear. So we're creating a nice diagonal line, opening up the lat. Try not to round your body forward. But keep your shoulders stacked. This top shoulder can even rotate back a little. And then pull it up. Last counter stretch. And lower that left arm. Bring your fingertips down in front of you. You can tent both fingers here as you take your little bit of side stretch, inner thigh. Or you can lower those elbows down. Maybe that right foot slides out further and further to lengthen through the adductors, the inner thigh, groin. Nice neutral cervical spinal position. 3 more breaths. And then pressing yourself up. Slide that knee in. Come up high onto both knees. Inhale, reach. And as you exhale, make fists and place them back on either side of the sacrum. So this is on the SI joint area. We'll press those knuckles in, open up through the heart, and lengthen the spine into modified camel. 2 more breaths. We're lifting our heart up. So we're not necessarily creating more of a back bend in the lumbar spine. We want to create that in the upper back, the thoracic spine. 1 more breath. And exhale. So today we are going to do a reverse shavasana. So rather than laying on our back, we'll be laying on our belly. A couple things you might need. Maybe your towel to place on your mat in front of you, either to support your forehead or your cheek, or to make this more comfortable once you lay down. So our reverse shavasana is exactly the opposite of what we do on our back. So you're going to come down onto your belly. And then as you extend down, take your feet a little bit wider than hips distance apart and turn your toes in. So you're rolling the heels outward, which is opposite of what we do in Shavasana. Now, as you take your hands next to the sides of your body, your palms will be facing down, creating just a baby Hasta Bandha, not very much tension into your hands, maybe a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10. Then turn your head to the left, so you're placing your right cheek down onto the mat. Let the fronts of your shoulders roll forward. And bring your awareness to your breathing. This is a passive neck stretch. I just want you to relax that right side of your neck, the one that's facing towards the floor, the middle of the back and front of your neck, and the left side of your neck. And notice the Hasta Bandha, the hand lock. Feel the texture of the mat or the floor underneath the fingertip pads. Very, very gently pressing down into the earth. But that center of the hand, the arch of the hand, is relaxed and lifted away from the mat. Notice whether you're gripping your teeth together. Try to relax your jaw. Now begin to lift slightly up with your chest. Turn your head to face neutral. Push down into your Hasta Bandha and lift your legs up off the mat. Lift your chest up higher. This is a modification of locust. Strengthening through the back. Lower your legs back down with your toes turned in, your heels rotated out. Turn your head to the right so your left cheek comes down to the mat. Then let your shoulders relax and roll forward. Make sure you're not gripping your glutes, your legs. Everything is relaxed. And notice the stretch in your neck. Soften your jaw. No gripping in your teeth. Relax your forehead. Notice your Hasta Bandha. Just gently pressing into the pads of the fingertips. Slightly press up the upper back to bring your head back to neutral. Lift your thighs up off the floor, straight legs, modified locust, and notice your Hasta Bandha. Your chest lifted up, bring your arms right in front of you to stack your hands one on top of each other. Make a pillow for your forehead. Lay your head back down, let your legs relax. Let your heels rotate outward just slightly. And take about 5 breaths here with our neck now in a neutral position. And one more time, we engage the muscles of the upper back to lift the chest up just enough to bring the palms of the hands underneath the shoulders, back to our Hasta Bandha, slightly gripping the mat with the fingertip pads. Press down into the ball mount of the thumb, of the index finger, second, third, and fourth fingers, creating that suction cup, lifting the center of the hand up off the mat. Take a breath in, preparing to press back to child's pose. As you exhale, push and drop your forehead down to the mat. And we'll return to a seated position. Easy cross-leg pose. Take a breath in. Neck the hands together, Anjali Mudra or Namaste prayer pose. Acknowledging that we have one hand to help ourselves and one hand to help others. I hope you've enjoyed your practice today. I'm here for you if you have questions about how this is feeling for you and how you might need to modify even further. So reach out if you need to, and we'll close our practice today. The light and love and the helping hand that resides within me honors the light, the love, and the helping hand of you. Namaste. Thank you so much. If you have a question now, I'd love to hear anything from you. I'll go ahead and shut off our YouTube recording. And great job today, everybody.